So my beginning started in Toronto. I was born in Toronto. A few months later, I was taken to Jamaica, West Indies. From Jamaica, West Indies, I was shipped to Boston, Massachusetts. And from Boston, Massachusetts, I was shipped to Brooklyn, New York. From Brooklyn to New York, I ended up in Ottawa. So I'll tell you a little bit. The reasons why, I couldn't tell you all the reasons why. Being shipped to the US from Jamaica, I was sent with family that I didn't know. It was quite a shock to my 6-year-old system to be in the cold. So I was 6 when I was first sent away. I was 7 when I was returned back to Jamaica, and I was 8 when I was shipped back to Boston, Massachusetts. I was in Boston, Massachusetts from 8 to 12, and from there I living with family who was a single mom. So throughout the journey, I have been in the church. I was raised in the church. It's from the time in Boston, I broke out of the house and I started to hang out in all the wrong places in Roxbury, Mattapan, Boston, Roxbury, Massachusetts. I lived in middle class. I hung out in not so middle class. At 12, my aunt at the time said, "I've had enough of you. I'm sending you to New York. Your mother now lives there, so go." When I went to New York, my mother didn't have a place for me to go, so she sent me to a family she met in the church. She had just met them. So at 12, I was living with the family that I didn't know. They didn't know me, so I continued on the path that I knew. I knew the streets, so I went to the streets. My mother eventually came back for me, and I went to live with her temporarily. She didn't know how to manage funds. We experienced eviction. She was all about the church. The church got all of her money, so guess how I felt about the church? Because we were being evicted, we didn't have food to eat, but there was nobody around to help us. I saw the church as the people who just took and took and took and gave nothing back when you needed help. So I went to the streets to figure out how to pay bills. I went to hustle on the streets. I was living in Brooklyn. Brooklyn has various neighborhoods, and we were not in the best of neighborhoods. So we had the drug addicts and the drunks and everybody at the corner of the street, and so that was the life I went to be able to pay bills. My mother never questioned where the money came from. She just knew that I had money. I used what I knew. I used my body to make money. I used whatever they needed for the commuting of drugs from one place to the next, and so on. I was born Canadian, so I knew that if I ever got caught, then I would be sent back to Canada. So I wasn't very fearful because I heard Canada was a good place. I had never been here. So that was the life I had from about 12 to 16. At 16, I found myself, I was pregnant. And so I was failing high school very, very well. I was able to use what I knew how to use to get through junior high, but high school, it wasn't cutting it. So a guidance counselor took me under her wing at 16 and said, "Okay, I'm going to send you out to another high school so that you can try to catch up," because I was already quite failing. And she sent me to Bedford-Stuyvesant, a neighborhood called Bedford-Stuyvesant in New York. It is the worst neighborhood in New York, and in Brooklyn, and it's still the worst neighborhood today. I walked on needles, I walked on crack pipe, I walked on everything to get to and from the school. That was just the environment I was in. I realized at 16 that I had to do something different. If I wanted to have this child, and I had to finish at least high school. So I applied myself and finished high school. I graduated with my cohort. At the 1-year mark after giving birth, I was shipped back to my regular high school and graduated on time. Many people didn't know that I actually had a child. At graduating from high school, her father was in and out of prison. And at 18, I wanted to go to NYU because I realized that I needed to do better for her. I'll go back. My life in New York was a lot of alcohol. My life at 6 years old was alcohol. My life at 8 years old was alcohol. It was my family in Jamaica owned bars, so alcohol was a part of their lives. They're all alcoholics. And so this has been my trend. In New York, I would party until they don't have these places in Ottawa where you didn't know what time of day it was when you came out. And so I woke up in places that I didn't know how I got there. I didn't see myself living to 25. It was just, it was despair. It was not a good situation. Sometimes I would be dressed, sometimes I would be undressed. Had no idea how I got there. Came to Ottawa, so my daughter's father came out of prison, realized I had another relationship, and decided to use me as a punching bag. I knew I was born in Canada. My passport was expired, but I had a birth certificate. I didn't own a suitcase. I grabbed a knapsack, as many knapsacks as I could, grabbed my daughter, and hopped on a Greyhound bus. On the way here, I met somebody once, and I said, if I ever come to Canada, can I stay with you? So halfway here, I called her. I said, I'm on my way. Do you remember me? I'm on my way. And she said, yes. I said, I'm coming on the Greyhound. It's coming straight to Ottawa. I was 18 years old, and I had a 2-year-old on my hip and a few knapsacks and a birth certificate. So that's been part of my journey. I've been in Ottawa now for 30 years. My daughter is now 32 years old. My son is at the back, he's 18, and I have a 22-year-old. I came to Ottawa. I only do what I can do. I know the streets. So guess what I did in Ottawa? I hit the streets. I ended up in a house where they were selling drugs. I didn't know that that's what they were doing. So that was the life I started to go back in and realize, okay, I can't do this. I still wanted to come here for my 2-year-old. And I wanted to go to Ottawa U because I couldn't go to NYU. So eventually, full circle around, I went on the social assistance and was able to go to university. So my daughter and my children didn't know this. The alcohol, the desire to drink did not leave me. There are times when I got married, divorce hit, and life became difficult again. I was at negative actually. And so the craving for me was real. It was a fight to, do I go, do I not? I would hit such rock bottom that I walked into a church. I walked into a church that my mom would visit whenever she came. And I let it out. And the church mothers came around and loved on me and supported me. They knew that I was at home drinking. How, I don't know. I said there must be something real about this God they talk about, because how could you possibly know to come to me and tell me not to drink at night? That was the support I got. So my hope, since then it's been about 14 years since the divorce and so on, my hope is in Christ. And each time I feel that I've always been in control. I felt that I've always been in control since I was 12 years old, because I've had to be in control. And I keep on reminding myself that I am God-defended, I am God-provided, and God-centered. So if I keep my focus there, then I do not want to go back into being defended and take care of situations myself. Thank you very much for listening.